Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and we got Sunwoo in the house. He's actually here in present. Now, I went ahead and took the liberty of getting him up and running and getting him ready for you guys. And I wanted to kind of showcase him in some different areas that I think he would actually be pretty useful in. The two areas in particular that I looked at whenever I first talked about this champion, or I first observed this champion, was going to be one, arena. I in particular don't have a strong strip champion or control champion. I feel like Sun Wukong will kind of contribute towards that, as well as in other areas like Hydra, which is going to be a PvE related content, where using the application of block buffs is going to be very, very important. Now, I want to give a disclaimer before we get started that our champion Sunwoo is not booked, or he is not masteried up, so there's going to be a lot of overhead, a lot of improvement, but I did kind of run him down really quickly into a build that I feel like is going to be kind of useful. So we're going to kind of tackle some random opponents. We're going to see what we can get our hands on, but before we get too far in the sauce of it all, I'm going to go ahead and move my champions around a little bit. I wanted to show you guys how I built him up, just to kind of give you a little bit of form of context. Now, there was talks about whether or not he would be good as like maybe a hybrid damage, like supporting damage dealer with like a little bit of utility, or just straight up utility where you're, you know, making him go fast, making him very control oriented, and let him shine that way. I went down the latter, not the prior. But if you guys would be interested in seeing this champion throw down from a aggressive damage outlet perspective, then feel free to let me know in the comments below this video. I'm going to actually try and see how he feels from like a utility standpoint more so than anything. I did want to kind of highlight a couple key things, because he has an aura that's not as fast as Arbiter's, but still pretty decent. He is a very strong champion to put in the speed lead, which actually takes the place of my Duchess, believe it or not. I've been using her as my speed lead for the most part when it comes to that, or Arbiter for that matter, right? But on top of that too, he has the block bust and the sheep. So we're going to try to get some value out of both of those aspects today. So I'm going to be picking some targets that do a lot of buffs. I'm going to pick a lot of targets that like to hide behind like things like stone skin, and we'll see if we can kind of pierce through that and maybe get some optimal fights in. Okay. Now let's take a look at this guy. I'm gonna try to show his animations. I did buy the skin. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a shameless when it comes to you know, Dynasty Warrior type champions, and this guy kind of gives me like the Lubu vibes, like it's nothing, like something crazy. All right, now let's see if we got it. I got him in a little bit of accuracy. He's fast and accurate. That's the main two things I built into him. So we're gonna try to see if maybe we can get away with. We're actually gonna, instead of sheeping somebody, we're actually gonna see if we can place the block buffs. Looks pretty good. Yo, his animations are pretty sick too. So block buster in play, that means that whenever Valkyrie does her abilities, nothing goes on. So it looks like we're doing all right already. Now I am going to try to see if I can go and clear up Arbiter here, because she's the one that can kind of keep the team going in a sense. And then from there, with Necrit's A2, it enables Regash to get his increased defense. So maybe we had enough to slam here. I'm actually going to give it a shot, because 2 negative affinities and 1 neutral affinity, I think we have a chance to one-tap here. Yeah, too easy. Very, very easy. Let's see what else we can get our hands into. I want to find some more champions. Like maybe something around the lines of like this we could probably take care of. Let's see, how do we want to set this up? So, maybe I sheep out the Uko, and then maybe we can... I'm pretty sure that's going to have Stone Skin is what I'm going to take my bets on. And then with... Duchess putting up Veil and all that, we'll see if we can strip them on the second go-round. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can come up with. I feel like there's a lot of flexibility with how we can handle this these fights, which is kind of nice. Let's start off. Let's get rid of one problem. Just go ahead and get him out of the picture. You notice how he had block bust up that was protected. The sheep goes through elements like that. The only thing that you can apply versus his sheep is going to be resistance. So resistance is going to be a little bit more of a factor when you're building up someone like Wukong, or building up against them if you're ever going against them. So you want to make sure that you can kind of resist. But block bust, stone skin, none of that really affects this team as a whole. So that's kind of interesting that we're going to have it. I'm actually going to delay. I know that I normally would start getting aggressive here, but I'm actually going to delay here because I want to see how all the buffs in play are going to contribute to the overall experience here. So let's see. A bunch of buffs are in play. They did some kits. We did lose our Sun Wukong. Do we care? I think we're going to go ahead and just go without it. Having sheep automatically makes Uko, you know, halfway at HP when he spawns that back out. So that's actually interesting here. Looks like he grabbed our shield, so we're going to go ahead and A2 here. I don't know if you noticed, but we're now really worried about him being dead at the moment, so that's kind of interesting, right? We had 1 turn here, now a 2nd turn here, and I believe 3rd turn he spawns again, so that's really, really cool. And now, let's get the strip out. Okay, we got some resistance from this, so that means that we definitely need to be a little bit more careful with how we have our resistance built up, but let's go ahead and start slamming. It's too good. Like, that level of control just makes it super strong. So the more accurate you make him, the better he comes off in terms of, like, his application of utility being a lot better. And to be honest with you, I'm actually very, very impressed. If you take a look, and we're going to take a quick break here from this, if you take a look at his kit, and you pay attention to how his books look, a lot of his stuff in terms of increasing debuffs or buff chances when it comes to the A2 and the A3, which are his big parts of his kit, they don't require any books to be effective, you know, from a buff chance relation, right? It's more so for, you know, damage outlets, and then on top of that too, just cooldown, right? Which is important. Cooldown, being able to maintain continuous sheeps and whatnot, seems to be very, very like impeding and very like just demanding in terms of how bad it is on taxing your team. So he's gonna be a problem. I actually could say, I think in my video I said, would he kind of shake the meta up, and I was kind of on the bridge of saying kind of like more so no. I kind of changed my perspective on this. Give him some blessings, give him some really strong gear to take up his speeds, be one of the first to get going. He can eliminate a problem right off the rip, you know, on your team. We're actually going to take this on with another one that has a speed lead, see how we match up against him. Looks like there's no stone skins in play. I guess the main thing we can do, since we can't steal any buffs, we'll just get rid of some problems. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take care of Chikura real quick, so you can't do anything for a little bit. He's sheeped. We're going to go ahead and protect our team here a little bit more. We'll start getting the ball rolling on getting rid of their reser, the one that's going to keep the team in play. Protect our Duchess here, and then let's see if we can actually maybe do something else that's going to give us some value. Now, they do have increased speed across the board right now, right? But does it even matter? I mean, we're pretty much almost one-tapping everything here. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to land that stun. It looks like we weren't, unfortunately. I think it's an improved chance whenever the enemy is or is not buffed. So that's something that we have to kind of watch out for a little bit there. We'll take a read on his tooltip here when we got a second. Believe he's going to come up before our Ragash. But yeah, his 25% chance placing a debuff, but it's increased if the target has buff. So we actually had the better chance drop right now. With it being booked, it's increased to a 75% chance. So it's actually going to be a little bit more likely to land if we haven't fully booked, which I don't know if I'll be able to do it this CBC. I have some plans with my boy Chris waiting for me, but regardless, I think he's going to be a very, very strong champion to invest some resources into. At the very least, getting the cooldowns and some of the abilities is going to be really, really strong. Let's see here. Let's actually take on a composition that likes to buff a lot. So we'll see if we can maybe take this on. Our goal is going to be to get rid of Raka without losing too much mitigation and protection from, you know, Petrify or anything around those lines. So we'll see if we can get some value here from this. I think right off the rip, my first initial thoughts would be to go ahead and get rid of champions like, who do we want to sheep? It's basically what it gets down to. Now, when we're looking at champions like Mithrala, we should go with the expectation that they're going to have high accuracy, which means that from their passive, they're going to have high resistance. So maybe instead, we should consider doing something like Brogni, for example, who's going to give like a lot of mitigation, right? A lot of protections from a shielding standpoint. Especially since it's going to be protected. I think his shield is the one thing that's protected out of the entire A3 from him. So we could do that. We can also lock out maybe Helicaf if we don't want to deal with the overall block damage that he's going to provide. But I actually want to play into that. And I also want to show you guys that there is a chance to fail potentially on a affinity different type champion. So you got to watch out when you're going against blue affinity or magic affinity when you're playing as Sun Wukong. But we're going to give it a shot. Let's see if we can get Brogni down. Brogni did lose it, so that's good for us. A lot of the buffs got taken. Let's go ahead and see if we have a chance to provide anything else. I'm actually going to cycle through our team here a little bit. I am looking for a way to strip into this. So this is going to be a big indicator of whether or not we have the sauce to pull this off. Looks like we did. Their supports are now open up for grabs. And I believe this is our best chance maybe to take them on. Oh, no, they did cleanse, so we got to watch out for it. So there's a lot of like mitigation they have on their team. That's really, really scary on this particular side. So now at this point, it's going to be a matter of can we keep ourselves up and running while we try to take out these enemies, right? You know, there's a lot of shields that are coming to play. There's a lot of buffs and mitigation, but let's see if we can crack into it. Looks like we're doing pretty good. That's a nice stone from our boy Ragash. He's built up pretty decently well, I'm not going to lie. Let's go ahead and give Duchess some more love here so that she can keep herself going. And then let's go ahead and save Mithrala for last. If I do get the chance to try to sheep her, I am going to play it. I am like a little bit over, maybe higher, and I'll show you my build afterwards with some will. Looks like from a build standpoint, I have him in the higher ranges of like maybe 400 to 500 accuracy at this point in time. So that's not top of the line build or anything around those lines. No masteries, no nothing. So there's a lot of overhead, but not even glyphed either. I might need to consider that a little bit there. But Seems like we have some kind of footing here. I mean, to be honest with you, this is a win no matter what. Even with buffs and debuffs in play, I'm just going to cycle one round so that these guys can drop their Petrify. We'll go ahead and see if we could sheep her here. Ignore resistance. So she's got some pretty high resistance at the moment. We'll go ahead and at least get these guys taken care of here. Let's see. No strips either. Yeah. So high resistance. That's going to be the play to mitigate Sun Wukong's efficiency. But even then, no matter what, when you're building up like champions like your nukers, for example, they're not going to be built with the mindset that you're going to give mitigation or resistance to them like as a main focus. You're going to get their damage out of them, right? So like against your nukers as well as like other champions who are not designed to be mitigative like that, they're going to get stripped. And it's going to be your responsibility to try to make sure you can bounce back or around that, right? Now, let's see. I like teams like this where they have like these these like champions. Like when I see Cardinal, I automatically assume that we're gonna have something like Stone Scale. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take this on right here. And this is a great indicator, like some different ways you're gonna see it. So Stone Skin's a big one, shielding and things of that sort. I'm gonna go ahead and just see if we can pop her out of play. She has high resistance, believe it or not. That's interesting. So, what we're going to do in response to that is we're just going to go ahead and get him out of here. Actually, no, he still made it through, so that's pretty interesting. We're going to go ahead and protect our Duchess just in case. We're going to provide as much mitigation as we can because he is going to get his turn. Let's see if we can strip. Still unlucky, man. No solution to it at this moment. We are going to force his res, which is going to be kind of interesting. We're just going to do a throwaway ability here. But you can kind of see it. Like, it seems like resistance is the key here, you know? If we're not careful, like, the bounce back opportunity for these types of champions or these, you know, the fallacy of this champion, you know, you could kind of tell. The weakness in Sun Wukong in terms of his A2 and his A3 is definitely resistance, you know? Now, mind you, like I said, I don't have the best of abilities, but it doesn't matter. My boy pops right back up, and he's ready to shine yet again. Maybe we get another chance to maybe take him on and do something here. I am under some pretty strict cooldowns though, so that's gonna be kind of rough to deal with. However, I do feel like we're doing all right. Fine, a little bit down. Looks like we couldn't break through that shield at all, so that's gonna be kind of unfortunate. No stuns either. Mind you, she didn't have any buffs, so it didn't really matter. But even then, like you could kind of see it. Like it forces players to have to rebuild in a dynamic that it takes this type of, you know, situation in mind. Ooh, here's another one that's gonna be pretty buff heavy. One thing that's kind of frustrating with this is that, like, from a speed standpoint, they should typically, if you're against an equally matched player, in a sense, you should see that the Arbiter versus us should be a little bit faster. Should be is the key word, right? Now, if you have like substantial gear and you're pretty well progressed in your account, you're going to see opportunities where maybe you can edge forward a little bit. I mean, the difference between the two ores is literally only 2%, and that could make or break it. But you know, it makes the tides a little bit harder to deal with, right? But what would happen is that they're going to buff up and then they're going to become unkillable. And my next concern is going to be like, how do I break through that? And the way that I'm going to try to do this is I'm going to try to see if maybe, depending on how the match or the turns go out, I will try to snipe somebody out with sheep and then basically take their buffs away from there. So if they all get a turn before my Sun Wukong does, I'm going to just strip them all. If we're able to break through, I'm going to see if maybe we can lock one champion out of the fight. Maybe like we just get rid of Gimbo for a round and just, you know, let's see if we can grab a victory that way. So there's a lot of versatility in terms of how you can play, and you can play the dynamic of the fight based off of that. Look at this. We're actually able to straight up take away a champion because of how ahead we are. So I have a choice. I can go ahead and take care of one of their champions right now. I think no matter what, they will get a turn potentially more faster than we will. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of their speed lead. Let's just see what happens when they don't have things to work out in their fashion, you know, work out in their way as best as possible. So they got all their buffs now. He's going to have his turn soon, I'm assuming. Maybe not. Putting their only reser at 50% right off the rip is also super, super substantial, you know? And, like, that's a great way to just kind of give yourself damage without actually giving yourself damage, in a sense, you know what I mean? So very, very strong. I'll tell you what. I'm going to A3 here. It's kind of like a throwaway in a sense. I'm going to see if we could strip everybody. I'm going to expect, like, at least Chris here is going to have a little bit of resistance. So maybe that'll be the part where we fail. But the others? Oh, no. We got all three of them. Look at that. Tremendously important in terms of value to see, like, the potential of these teams, man. Like, I actually think that he's going to be a problem. And that's the scary thing. Like my Ragash has barely even done anything yet, and we've already caused so much disruption to their team to a point where they can't even do anything. It's ridiculous. Now, I'm gonna flip the script. I just wanted to show you guys some various different ways. The versatility of being able to play him into compositions is gonna be very, very strong. And to be honest with you, I think I'm gonna run him down a little bit more. I think that level of aggression is gonna be exciting. I think that as I develop my gear a little bit more, I'm gonna make him more of a focus in terms of making him just very fast to a point where he can get ahead of those actual speed leads where they're just difficult to beat, you know? And in addition to that, you know, in places where you're going to see a lot of like stone skin, like, you know, in live arena or a lot of areas where there's going to be a lot of potential. I even seen him with some of my friends. A big salutes to Educated Potato here. I was hanging out with him, and not too long ago, I saw him do some fights against the hardest comp to beat, or one of the hardest comps to beat, which is the Ukrainian duo in terms of Marishka and Terrace. And because of Sun Wukong's potential of being able to just keep somebody out of the fight for a bit and then stripping people of their buffs that would normally protect them, it just makes him such a lethal force that with maybe tethered towards some control in terms of like lockouts, you know, with Yumiko or maybe even Warlord, for example, that the fight goes heavily in advantage of your team with the Sun Wukong versus even the Ukrainian duo. So it's something to be concerned about if I were being honest with you guys. Now, because I don't have my Chris ready, I'm not really going to do too much. I'm just going to do kind of like a little bit of a showcase here. I'm going to use my normal team here, but I'm going to bring in Senora Vizix, if we can find her. Where's she at? Where's that cutie at? There she is. I see her. And then we're also going to take out our lovely lady, Umbral Enchantress. We're going to put Sun Wukong in here. Now, mind you, because this is only arena-based, he would not be suited as a good lead for, you know, for, like, PvE-type content. However, I won't deny that he is going to be a problem. Now, if I were to use him more focused towards PvE content, I would lean a little bit more into his damage, considering that he can ignore 50% of the target's defense with the A2. But I think first and foremost is the ability or the efficiency of being able to land those type of debuffs. And I want to show you guys something that's really, really cool that we all are aware of, or should be aware of, but if you're not, this is a great place to learn. I'm actually going to let Poison Cloud do his thing. So we're just going to try to provide control as best we can. I'm just going to do damage for now. We'll just smack him since he's the one I'm going to let show his potential in a sense. But we're going to do some debuffs. We're going to do some things here. Basically, just kind of play it as if we were, you know, taking on the fight as if we were serious about it, with the exception of block buffs, okay? Now, we got busted play. We got a little bit of control. So all thing we have to watch out now is I need that Poison Cloud to come up. So we're going to skip a turn here and let the team do what they got to do. So you see that they got the block buffs. You see they got Poison Cloud now, right? I'm actually going to expect him to be able to go through that. So let's see. Let's see when we get the chance here. My team's fast, so we gotta cycle through some champions here. So give me 1 second. There you go. So they got the everybody has block buffs. Everybody has Poison Cloud. This is like the worst case scenario in what you can have happen in a run. You want control, right? Which means that if they're getting your buffs and they're taking stuff from you, this doesn't feel good, right? Now watch what happens with his A3. Not only did he take the buffs, but he landed it. So his A3 block buff goes through Poison Cloud, and that right there alone is game changer. A lot of times when you have to factor in the experience of like Hydra, for example, you have to take into account that like there's going to be random times or like obscure times. It's not consistent in the sense of when you drop a head and when a new head respawns. The better your team is, the more efficient you are able to catch them as they spawn. But they come in with like a blank slate of no buffs or anything like that. So there could be a chance that your team is cycled through their abilities, and just before maybe the Head of Blight spawn does his block or his Poison Cloud, maybe the Head of Suffering spawns at the most worst timing. So it could go Head of Suffering spawns and then Poison Cloud gets applied. And because you already did your stuff earlier, you know, your ability's not up or it's not your turn yet, he ends up getting that block buffs. And if that was someone like the Mischief or Decay, it becomes very, very problematic because you're trying to avoid the enemy team getting buffs that benefit them, right? However, with Sun Wukong, as a responsive, in a responsive nature, he actually gives you the opportunity to be able to catch that even with Poison Cloud being in play. So, like, particularly if we're talking about Mischief, you know, him getting Poison Cloud just makes the run so much more difficult. It makes you very hesitant on wanting to put up your buffs for yourself because you don't have a way to make sure that he doesn't get it unless you're running something of the scenario of, like, maybe a Mischief tank, you know, someone with high resistance, so whenever he does try to grab it. But there's a lot of nuance behind that, and maybe not every player is able to do that, right? So as a good catch-all in the event that not only Poison Cloud is up, but Mischief is able to grab some buffs, not only does, you know, Sun Wukong place it through the Poison Cloud, but he also takes the buffs away, and then, you know, it's just that overall level of efficiency. You like that bounce back mechanic. Now I can reign supreme and just do what I gotta do as if I was like having a grand fantastical day, you know. I could just let it keep going, and that's a great catch-all. So him being booked fully on a 3-turn cooldown is ideal. It makes it a 2-turn duration, so a 3-turn cooldown. If you go fast enough to a point where you can cycle ahead of the heads, you actually would be able to maintain uptime on the block bus. You know, inject some decreased speed in there, you know, that could be a potential. Increase speed on your team to make your team go faster. Make the champion faster in general, like it depends on builds, right? And of course the difficulty is going to affect that as well. But just having that level of, like, capability of being able to just take a mechanic that is very problematic and just completely doing your hands away with it is super significant. It gives you a lot of opportunity to just breathe life into your composition. And believe it or not, I'm actually going to use Sun Wukong in content like Hydra here. I mean, it's super strong, a lot of potential, and with the right team around him, I can see him thriving pretty well. Now, like I said, it'll be up for debate of whether or not you think his damage is going to be substantial. I've seen some perspectives of being somewhat of a lackluster experience, and then also others' perspectives where he actually is kind of giving a little bit of a output. I think his output's a little bit more significant from a PvP standpoint if you're looking at it from that lens, but from a PvE standpoint, it'd be better maybe just to bank through his utility. And funny enough, even with that being said, in terms of, like, you know, it's noteworthy to acknowledge his damage potential, I think he's still better suited as a more utility focused type champion. So I don't know. With that being said, it's up for you to interpret how you want to bring this guy to light in your account. You know, each player's gonna have their own different experience. We're all on our different journeys, right? But at the end of it all, I think it's very exciting to have a champion where diversity is at play. And I think that's the most important thing that I love about this game, that I want to reiterate as to why I appreciate how Sun Wukong feels, is that mitigation, or not the mitigation, but the utility as well as the variance you could do, that diversity in his build, you know? Maybe you don't see a lot of success in too much of the utility side, but you were looking for maybe a substantial nuker who has some ignore percent defense and built into their kit, and now you found that in Sun Wukong. It's possible. It's possible. You know, we all have different perspectives when it comes to whether or not this champion is suitable in this particular light for your account at that point in time. And who knows? Maybe that'll evolve. Who knows? Who knows? But with that being said, I hope you guys liked this video. If you guys haven't already considered it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know. What are you going to do with Sun Wukong? You going to build him damage? You going to build him utility? You going to build him for the vault? You know, Vault Guardian? Are you going to use them as food? I wouldn't. But, you know, like, either way, like, just let us know. And with all that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And always, always remember, stay ascended.
Got the